Yes, it is. Yes, I'm Rachel. I'm one of the pastors here at Vineyard Covington. I had to shorten this because Charlene, the stand made you look even more tiny. And I was like, oh no, I'm the same height as Charlene. So we lowered this. And you guys like my tattoo? Just kidding. It's fake. My mom turned 70 last week, and we got fake tattoos on her birthday. So I've just been babying it like it's my own. And it's sort of fading away. Now it's just vintage. It's a vintage flower now. I used to have a nose stud for years and years and years, and Tyler has a half sleeve. And I'd be like, oh, we're so alternative. Just like this alternative couple. But now I let the hole grow in. I don't have it after my third baby, and I have this faded, terrible tattoo now. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to own my white girl millennial aesthetic. This is it. This is what I got. At the last worship gathering, Tyler started the series on our core values. And our core values are centered around following Jesus. They're lenses for how we look at the world around us and culture. And we say here at Vineyard Covington that we exist to welcome people home to a family being transformed by the life and love of Jesus. Tyler shared with us last time that we welcome people home to a healthy family. That's one of our core values, a healthy family, where God is our Father, and in Jesus, we've been adopted into this new family that, like, God is uniting and reconciling all things. Why this value of healthy family is so countercultural is because our culture, especially in America, is so shaped by radical individualism and loneliness. And a new picture of healthy family is painted by Paul in Ephesians 2 that shows how Jesus destroyed the barrier between people groups. In this case, the Jews and the Gentiles. And Gentiles are any non-Jewish people. And that would be most of us in this room, unless you're of Jewish descent. Paul writes in Ephesians 2:14 that Jesus himself is our peace. And that it was Jesus who made the two groups one. And he destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility, by creating in himself one new humanity out of the two. We are all adopted into God's family so that there is no lonely amongst us. We have many, many brothers and sisters. To paint the picture in even more detail, we get a future prophetic vision from John in Revelations, and we heard some of that in our second song today, and what Jesse read from the front was from Revelation 4. But in Revelation 7, we see what this healthy family is doing all together at the end of time. He writes that he saw a vast crowd, too great to count, from every nation and tribe and people and language. That's familiar from what we heard Charlene say. Standing in front of the throne and before the Lamb. They were clothed in white robes and held palm branches in their hands, and they were shouting with a great roar, "Salvation comes from our God, who sits on the throne, and from the Lamb." We get to worship the King all together, every nation, tribe, people, and tongue, as one family, reconciled to the King of Kings, up and down, and then reconciled with one another, horizontal. That future picture gets me pumped up, just like it gets Charlene pumped up, and I'm sure some of you. And it encourages my prayers for that united, healthy family to happen now here on earth as it is in heaven. So if that's what we're aiming for, how do we welcome people home to this healthy family? And that's what we'll spend the rest of our time talking about today, is our core value of relational hospitality. Relational hospitality is a way of living our lives, welcoming people into this family of God. And as we learn how do we welcome every nation, tribe, people, and tongue, we learn that the super basic answer is we love one another. That's it. It's what it all boils down to. But it's so much harder to do than to just say that. Like, let's just love each other, you know? I think we can learn a lot from the Bible about how to love others. So we're going to get into Romans 12. So if you have a Bible or your Bible apps, you can pull those out. We'll be in Romans 12. We're going to start in verse 9. I have it on the screen too. Don't just pretend to love others. Really love them. Hate what is wrong. Hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. Never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. Rejoice in our confident hope, be patient in trouble, and keep on praying. When God's people are in need, be ready to help them. Always be eager to practice hospitality. And you can see I highlighted for you the sections I really think we need to pay attention to regarding relational hospitality. So 1, don't just pretend to love others, really love them. 2, take delight in honoring each other. And 3, always be eager to practice hospitality. So on that first one, like people can sniff out pretend love in a second. What good is it if you're trying to love someone and it's not coming from like genuine affection? It's exhausting. It's exhausting to like yourself and to the other person, and just not real for either party. Real love takes the work of the Spirit within us to change our hearts toward the other if we want to have that genuine affection. This doesn't excuse abusive or negligent behavior for people, though. So if there's an abusive person in our lives, the best way to love them is to apply some boundaries and get some help. But this is for when we're choosing not to love a person because we might not feel like it, or like they might be a little annoying and we're having a hard time about that. My youngest, Eden, is 2 years old. She's just a little redheaded Spitfire angel baby. And she will let you know, though, if she is not into you. You will get a mean mug and a side eye, and she's not giving you anything, like nothing. However, if you are her Grammy, she is going to scream and grin and run at you with these wide open arms, running into your arms and like, yay, Grammy's here. Like, that is not pretend love. That is real love. And I think that's why Jesus tells us to live like kids, because kids can't pretend. And he doesn't want us to pretend either. However, he does call us to keep maturing in that. We can't just stay toddler baby lovers. We want to love people with genuine affection. Relational hospitality starts with relational. So if there's no relationship, hospitality is not going to flow. So while we're at it, let's define hospitality. That's a word, it can mean a bunch of different things to all of us, but how it's translated from the Greek, from Romans 12, is this. Philoxenia, I'm pretty sure I said it close to right. That is the love of or to strangers. It's warmth or friendliness shown to strangers. The front end of the word means friend, and the second half of the word in Greek means stranger. A pastor friend of ours, Jared Boyd, describes hospitality like this. Hospitality extends to strangers or acquaintances a quality of kindness and provision, usually reserved for friends and family. The spiritual practice and provision, the spiritual practice embedded in hospitality is recognizing the image of Christ in another, particularly a person in need. That kind of like changes our thoughts on when we think about like who we love and who we don't have enough love for. Our love is expansive. It's like when I had my first baby, Naomi, I didn't know how my love could expand from like me and Tyler and like the people I had already in my life to this new creature. But it did. And then it happened again when Davy and Eden were born, and my love expanded further to encapsulate them, and nobody got any less from me. The same goes for like different friends I've had in my life. I've moved a couple times, But every time I've moved, when I moved to Chattanooga or I moved to Charlotte, people I was around, those were strangers, until I practiced some hospitality and opened myself up, and they became strangers no more. My heart expanded to love more, to love the others. That's an aspect of the kingdom of God that I really, really love, how it just swells with this expansion. It's a picture of generosity from a God that never runs out. When we, with our scarcity mindsets, we think in limited resources, but God is infinite, and in his infiniteness, it never runs out, never. And that is good news. Yes. So for the second highlight, take delight in honoring each other. I think this is how we teach our hearts to grow and expand with love. This isn't just a feeling, this is an action. The feeling might be like the take delight. The action is in honoring each other. As I've been preparing for today, I've had this phrase, prefer one another, stuck in my brain this whole time. And I knew I'd heard it, and I knew it was somewhere around this Romans passage, but I didn't realize I actually had the King James Version stuck in my brain. And so here's the New King James Version of it. Be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love, in honor, giving preference to one another. Giving preference to one another. And so let's look at a couple more translations of this. This is the same verse, Romans 12:10, the second half of it. So we did the NLT, we've done NKJV, the NIV, honor one another above yourselves. CEB, be the best at showing honor to each other. Or the ESV, outdo one another in showing honor. It's like a contest almost to get honor more than the other person. In honor, we give preference to one another. So the Greek word for preferring, here's another one, prolegomai, okay? That means to lead the way for others, which is really cool. When we think about preferring someone, we're leading the way. It means we show deference, which is humble submission and respect, that we are preferring and going before another person as an example. That's what we get to do as the body. If we, as Vineyard Covington, could get anything from this message, it would be this, like, let's prefer one another. Let's outdo one another in honoring each other and the people around us. That is the way of relational hospitality. So the last highlight from Romans 12, always be eager to practice hospitality. That's how we grow. We're practitioners of Jesus' way. There's no winning or losing here. We're all just practicing. It also means that none of us are superstars at this. We are all constantly learning this together. If you've been around VCOV long enough, you'll learn that we like to pray and we like to throw parties. Party. So we want to talk, I just want to talk about like practicalities of relational hospitality as it relates to throwing parties. Although relational hospitality isn't just limited to like party throwing. If you read more of Romans 12, the previous verses that come before this passage are all about what we all bring to the table, like the gifts that we have, the unique gifts and how we're wired. And examples being prophesying, teaching, leading, serving, encouraging, giving, showing mercy, and we do those well. And then this section, the Romans 12 section, comes up with that the body of Christ, we the church, like we need all those things, and we are all called to practice this hospitality. So we all get to do this. This isn't reserved to just the hospitality people. So anyway, I'd say we're pretty good at hospitality here at VCOV. And so if we could just add those throwing parties to the like spiritual gifts list, that would be awesome. Like, be good for us. So I like to have parties, and I like to create atmospheres. And the way we do that, like in our own homes, is with lighting, music, food, conversation. And that's not an exhaustive list. That's just how I'd like to frame how I'm thinking about an event I'm throwing. So let's think, this is like hypothetically, I'm throwing a dinner party. When I'm creating the welcoming environment in my own home and thinking of the atmosphere I want to create, I think of the people who are coming over. What are the lighting needs? And what are the mood? What's the mood I'm wanting to create based on the people coming? Is it evening? Do we want to like make a cozy atmosphere and to have the candles and like dim the big lights? And like, awesome thing about dim lights is you can't see crumbs or like smudges on the wall. So hot tip for you all. Anyway, it's just, if you know, like if I knew my guests had like poor eyesight, my mom's eyesight is starting to go, I'd turn the lights up though for her. I think of my guests in the way that I prepare my house for who's coming over. I consider the needs. Same with music. I make sure it's on before my guests arrive. I consider what I know of them and what music might make for a great background to our conversation. If this is like a party, we like pump up the noise, turn it up. If it's a conversational situation, we turn it down. I consider like how they can make sure we can hear one another. So, the type of music playing changes based on the needs of the night and what do my guests prefer. It's a mixture of what I like and what I'm guessing they might like. And so we do this prefer the other person. And now let's consider food. Do our guests have any food restrictions? This is a way to definitely show preference to our guests. Is there a cultural side of the food that we want to serve to show true hospitality to our guests? How loved does food make you feel when someone cooks for you? After college, I was living in Chattanooga, Tennessee, with while two of my old college roommates were still in our college town about 30 minutes away. And one of them is an amazing cook. And anytime we came up to visit or hang out, she's always making us something. And it was awesome. Like, I did not have to do anything. It was so nice. But it made her heart so glad to cook for people. She was sharing her gift with me. And my tum-tum really appreciated it. So it was really good. Now, in our house, Tyler is the chef. And so he does most of the cooking and considering of food, all the food things when it comes related to guests. It's his gift to share. And bonus, I win again because I get to eat the food. It's a good place to be. So all of these things are just to help build the foundation for a really great night. A favorite author of mine, Shauna Niequist, she's the queen of throwing dinner parties. And she wrote a book called Bread and Wine, a love letter to life around the table with recipes. And in it she writes, "The heart of hospitality is about creating space for someone to feel seen and heard and loved. It's about declaring your table a safe zone, a place of warmth and nourishment." Isn't that a place we would all like to be? A place we feel seen and heard and loved. That's what we're doing. We're creating this safe zone. Inauthentic hospitality is when you create a space that only serves you. It's when you try to create a space that makes you just look good. That's not serving your guest. True hospitality serves the guests you have coming, that you've invited. So if I create a place and just make it, like all nice for me, like what's the point? It doesn't do anything. Okay, so after these foundational things are set, then there's how we bring ourselves to the night, to the party, to our guests. Are we fully present and engaged? Is our body and our mind in the room? I know I have not always done that. Maybe work was insane that day, or my kids were insane that day, or traffic was insane that day. Like whatever it is, something was insane that day, and I'm having a hard time bringing my full attention to the space. Same thing for all of us. It's hard to bring your full attention to the space that we're in. So regardless of how we show up, like what happened that day, circumstances, we want to show up as our authentic, true selves. And maybe that means letting our friends in on the hardness of life. Maybe it opens up a conversation for them to share the hard spaces in their life. Vulnerability breeds vulnerability. And who wants to go about life with only talking about like the basic things, like just weather and sports? It's when we go deeper in conversation that people truly feel seen and heard and loved. A week ago, I was talking with Alicia. I'm sharing some stuff. It's going to be great. She's the queen of parties. And I was talking about this message for today, and she just has a gift for hospitality. And she's so easy to talk to. Have you guys talked to her? Like, she shared with me, though, that that's a skill that she has worked on because she wasn't always that way in conversation. She had noticed from someone else in her life that they tended to turn conversation towards themselves when they were in conversation with people, and she noticed some of that in her own life. And she worked towards practicing curiosity with other people and asking lots of questions. And she asks deep questions. She was telling me that, like, you know, like, why not? Why not ask the deep question? People like to talk about themselves, and they'll answer them. If they don't, that's okay too. Then move on. It's amazing. Like, we can do the work of practicing our preferring of the other person. Alicia did it. We can do it. Relational hospitality doesn't take sides with extroverts and introverts. For those of us that run those two very wildly different personality types, relational hospitality is an equal opportunity core value. Each personality type gets to thrive in their own way in these situations. I watched this happen in real time at Our Ladies Hang in March in Christy Johnson's front yard around a bonfire. Introverts and extroverts both engaged in conversations to different extents. Oh, like, see how cute everybody is? Look at them all. Like, Sarah Makowitz is somewhere in there. She might have taken the picture, actually. She's floating from one deep conversation to the next deep conversation and just, like, leaving a trail of women who feel so deeply known. Like, it's amazing and encouraged. And then over there, you might see there's Lauren Lossler. And she is a supposed introvert, but the most socially engaged introvert I know. And she's making sure everyone has someone to talk to around the fire. She's an amazing woman to have as a wing woman at a party, just letting you know, like, go stand next to her, it's the best. And then you see, like, Tara Bell. Tara, you're, like, in there somewhere, too. And you are moving from one side of the fire at one point to bring this well of wisdom and encouragement to a neighborhood friend that was there, who also is a co-laborer in the Covington school system. She, like, just look at all of them. I mean, it's dark, you can't see them, but afterwards I was feeling like I was floating on air just from the sweet conversations that we got to have and the ways all of the ladies were speaking life into other women's lives. And this isn't just like VCOV ladies. This is like friends from the neighborhood came, and you're all invited too to the next Ladies Hang at the end of May. We'll figure out what we're doing. Woo woo! Dudes are doing something too later. You guys do your own thing. I'm a lady. I'm talking up here. So, I mean, this is it, isn't it? Like living deep lives with God and living deep lives with other people and inviting those who think they're on the outside, on the outskirts, into this beautiful family, the family of God, and in particular, VCOV. We get to do that. I hope we can all begin to see that relational hospitality is the bent that we have towards others. The atmosphere, music, food, and conversation, they're just like metaphors in how we actually live our lives. You know, just apply that at will. When we prefer one another at work, if we prefer one another on errands we run, we prefer one another at home with our kids, we prefer one another with friends, with strangers at the grocery store, anywhere, Like, that's where the magic happens. We see the kingdom coming, and our future picture of worshiping as one family becomes more and more real as we continue to reconcile with one another because we've been reconciled to God. So as we close out our time together, I want us to take a minute to reflect on 2 questions, and then we're going to worship for one last song. So often after hearing someone like spout out a bunch of words, we don't have time to digest what's spoken. And so we're just going to actually apply some of this to our real life and take some silence to try to do that. So in the next minute, we'll look through this question of, what is my gift that I bring to the table? Because we all have gifts to bring. It's how God wired us. And 2, is there someone in particular Jesus is inviting me to prefer? Like, is there a person or a situation he's inviting me to see with new eyes that have that relational hospitality lens attached to them? So why don't we just begin to relax in our chair? Maybe close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. Start to listen to the small, still voice of the Spirit inside. He's trying to talk to you. He wants to talk to you. So let's ask the Lord this first question, and then we'll wait. What is my gift to bring to the table? What is my gift? Just begin to notice the thoughts that come in your mind, things that might stick out. Or maybe you have an emotional reaction to a thought that comes through. Just kind of hold on to that and ask the Lord what that's about. And we'll wait a little longer and ask this question. Is there someone in particular that you, Jesus, are inviting me to prefer? Or to see something with new eyes? Thank you, Jesus, for your invitation. You are so kind. Would you teach us to be like you, to be curious, to ask questions, to see the image of God reflected in the people around us.